Okay, so today we're going to do something a little bit different. I did do this last year, but I'm going to do it a little bit differently this year. So, you can't see what I'm doing, but I got this case. Actually, I'm going to show you the whole case. I got this case of bottles last year. It's actually from Michael's. It's celebrated. It's like little vases. I think it's like a wedding, like favor thing. I don't know. But there's 3 different shapes. So there's this kind of squarish one. There's this cylindery one, and then there's this like more of a bulby one. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to do my Apothecary bottles again, but I'm going to do them a little bit differently. I'm not going to be coloring the bottles. I've planned out how many pages I need to finish Drawloween. So I'm going right to where I put the marker, and I'm going to start drawing. I don't want to interrupt my Drawloween, so I'm going to start drawing some ideas like I did last year, and then I'll get started in making them, and we're going to do something a little different this year. I'm actually going to fill them with some goodies and things, and I don't want to give too much away because it's kind of exciting, but I will be using resin, so yay! Okay, so let's get started. So, future Kimber here. I am editing this about a week later after I have finished these. Partially because I had 8 hours of footage and it was so much to kind of sit in front of the computer and bring down. But also, I lost footage because I was filming toward the end and my memory card filled up and I didn't realize it, and I just kept like thinking it was filming, and then by the time I tried to actually dump all the stuff on my hard drive, I just had to finish it at that point. So there's a couple that I painted off camera, but it's fine. I show the pictures at the end. So, and if you follow my Instagram, you've probably seen them. I've actually sold all these bottles already except for one, which is the mummy dust. And who knows, that could happen at any moment. So as of this video, as of October 24th at 3:12, it is unsold. But the reception for these is huge. Like I was so floored at how many people bought them so quickly. The ones I did last year really weren't that big of sellers, and I don't know if it's just because this is a very unique style how I did them. But through the video, I'm going to go in and talk about using resin, which I did not record, and I'll explain that later. And all kinds of like little hiccups and things that happened. It's been a year since I sculpted, so yeah. Okay, I have a bunch of stuff here, including Super Sculpey. This is the one I use all the time. I have a bunch of these kinds of things: Bacon Bond, Satin Glaze, Bakeable Medium. We're definitely going to be using Bacon Bond. Here's Clay Softener, and then a Gloss Glaze as well. But I definitely know I'll need Bacon Bond because I have a bunch of these stoppers, but unfortunately they don't fit. I could not find the correct size, so I'm going to need to build up around this to create the sculpture on top of here, but I need to build it up so it'll actually be a stopper in there. And then, like I was saying, we're going to use some resin, so I thought it might be really neat to tint the resin, and this was a gift. Somebody gave this to me, High Flow Acrylic. I think I can use this to tint the resin. I still want it to be clear, so I'm just going to tint it a little bit. And if it doesn't really work, I'll kind of know after the first one, and then I'll probably try to use. I have some inks and things, so we'll see what kind of goes. This is like a trial and error day. So I have all my little things. I actually don't need those till later. I don't know why I took those out, but that's fine. Here's all my clay tools. I got a bunch a while ago, and I really haven't used much of them. I also have these Reynolds Wrap sheets in case I need to do some building up of like an innard, like a head or something. So just to kind of go over, I did a couple more sketches. So we got these that we started with in the beginning. These are going to be the toppers. I actually made labels through Stickermule. I'm waiting for them to come in, so hopefully by the time I'm ready to put the video together, they'll be here, and then I can take the last shot of them all together. So that'll be kind of, I ordered like clear translucent labels, so they should look pretty cool. So I got dragon, definitely excited about this. I think I'm going to actually make the feathers out of the Sculpey and stuff. So we'll see how that works. And then, yeah, this is the mummy dust. I have some really cool glitter and things I'm going to be using to mix with the resin as well. And then these are the last ones I just made, essence of cat whiskers, and then we have a unicorn. I'm definitely going to do something with toads because I love them. And then this is similar to the one I did last year, or that at least I designed, but I actually never got to make it. So I didn't end up doing the zombie or the toad idea, but that's okay. I mean, it just leaves me with things to do for next year. But I want to touch on the labels. I actually love Stickermule. They usually have a lot of sales and things, promotions, but they also have these samples. So if you're not sure if you're going to like a sticker or something you make, or see if it sells well, you can get these like samples made, and you only get like 10 stickers and it's like $9. So I intentionally knew I was only going to make about maybe 10 of these at the most, at least for this year. So I made these clear labels. I designed them, sent them in, and I did get them just after I finished like filming everything. I think I got them like 2 days later. And once the resin and everything had like dried and everything was set, I put them on, and you'll see the pictures at the end. I did spell apothecary wrong, and I was so annoyed. I meant for it to say ARTpothecary because it says Kimberland ARTpothecary Bottles. But apothecary is spelled with an E instead of an O, and I did ARTpothecary, and then it was though instead of the, but whatever. It is what it is. They still look great. The lettering was so small, so I really wasn't too concerned. But so I sculpted all of these on the cork. I wish I had gotten a cork that was the right size, because it just added an extra layer of clay that it would have been nice to not have to deal with, because the clay shifts as you're holding it, it gets softer. And I measured them all out, they all fit, and then of course you put them in the oven, and I don't think the clay necessarily expanded, but I think from me constantly touching it, it kind of pushed in certain ways. But what I did learn was that I could actually use an X-Acto knife to kind of carve the clay when I was finished. I mean, I did know that, but I didn't realize how smooth it was going to be because I've never done that before. But it went really well, and I actually carved a lot of really cool, like, divots and things into the stoppers, so that not only did they fit, but they looked kind of neat. So it worked out in the long run. But fun fact, in case you didn't know, you can actually carve super Sculpey with the X-Acto blade once it is baked and dry and not hot. So like I was saying, I wanted this year's bottles to be a little different. I've been seeing a lot of people using resin. I have a very good friend who uses resin, so I thought, well, if I'm not going to paint these bottles, maybe I can do something fun where I'm like making like resin potions and things. And as I started sculpting, I mean, I had planned to do resin in every bottle. But as I started sculpting with all these ideas, there were like certain ones that I thought, well, I don't want that to be resin. I would almost like something in there that's going to move around. Like the one I'm carving right now is the gnome bones. Now, the powdered gnome bones, I mean, I put some bones in there for effect, but really it's going to be powder. So I went out and I got a couple jars of different kind of glitter and like sandy kind of sandstone looking stuff. And then that way I could throw some of the bones in there with it, and it would look kind of like, there's some powdered, mashed up ones, but then there's some ones that aren't. So, and I just thought it was a really neat effect. And then there are a couple other ones where, I did a crow one, which you'll see the feathers of crow. And I wanted the feathers to kind of be sculpted. And I had asked my friend for her opinion, because I thought, should they be solid and should I put resin in there to hold them in? And she made a good point, and I don't know why I think I just thought, I need to use all the resin. But no, she made a good point. They should be a little more like freestanding in there, and like they could kind of jostle around a little bit. And it ended up looking fantastic. So you'll see, like, the mummy dust also has, this one's actually cool. The carving, the shaving I used from shaving down the different stoppers, it was so fine, and I didn't want to throw it out. I threw it into the mummy dust with the glitter that I bought for it, because it just looked so neat. and it almost seemed like it could have been pieces of bone, and maybe the dust was, or the glitter was more of like from the wrapping. I don't know. I thought it looked cool. This one was the one I was dreaming about, though, from the get-go, was the eyes of Newt. And I made a bunch of little eyeballs, and I did want those encased in resin. Now, since I'm getting to this, I'll start talking about resin. Resin was not as fun for me as I thought it would be, because I felt like I was under a time crunch. I should have gotten the things I was going to put in to the resin. Like, you really only have a very short window before it really starts to solidify. And I'm pouring like 6 bottles at a time. So I'm pouring all of them, and I started with Eye of Newt and the unicorn horn. Now, those were the 2 that I had things to actually put in there that I wanted to mix up. And I knew I had about a 40-minute window, and then it was going to start really solidifying, and I wouldn't be able to mix it up. Also, I learned glitter, certain glitters. In the Newt eye, I used a special, like, I think it was called like flakes and chips or something. I don't know. It was some kind of interesting glitter that I saw, and I just thought it kind of looked a little filmy, and it said it would tint the resin. It was made for resin, but it didn't really tint it a lot, and not even that. It kind of like sunk to the bottom. So actually, even the mermaid tears, I did mermaid tears. You're going to see that one later too. I used the same flaky made for resin kind of glitter thing, and it just all sank to the bottom. I did not get to that one in time to stir it to kind of bring it all up and make it look swirly. So if you're going to use resin, just be aware of that. So about 40 minutes just over, I go outside to start mixing in my eyeballs and my unicorn horns, and mix up the unicorn horn was like almost completely, I couldn't believe it. I was like, oh my God, this is almost completely solid already. But I managed to get a couple of those horns in there, and I pushed them around, and they all stuck in place, which was kind of nice. And let's see so the dragon's blood, I just tinted with some of the color I showed you in the beginning, the acrylic flow paint. And I didn't put anything in it because I just thought like the tint was enough. I did get to the Newt eyes in time to kind of mix it up. Some of the flakes didn't really mix as well, but I think it came out really cool looking. And then let's see what else. Oh, and then so I did the Essence of Cat whiskers. That one I definitely, because I used a glitter that was kind of a lighter glitter, like it wasn't very heavy or solid like the flake was, it was able to kind of mix into the resin and stay afloat. I didn't have to mix that one again. But be cautious with resin. Definitely do it in a well-ventilated area. Make sure you're wearing gloves. You don't want that stuff on your skin. It stinks. I did it in the garage, which is why I didn't film. I wasn't comfortable bringing the camera in there because my boyfriend has all his tools, and I didn't want the camera to break. Plus, I wasn't 100% sure, and I didn't of what I was doing, and I didn't want to focus too much on the camera and worry about that when I was trying to focus on maybe not spilling the resin everywhere, because let's face it, I'm clumsy. So the ones with the scales were actually really fun. The mermaid tail, the dragon. Making the scales and the way that they overlap and they come out was really fun, and it looked really great. I actually end up using a color shift paint a little bit later for a couple of these, and I'll mention it when we get there. Definitely the mermaid tail. And I actually made cute little, I made a sand dollar, or not a sand dollar, a starfish and a couple little clams, like you can see, like this little shell, clam shell, but I didn't end up using it. Part of what happened was I realized I was doing this on the wrong bottle, and because I think one of them I had to switch, so then I had to switch that bottle, and then it didn't make sense anymore, so I just took it off. Oh, and okay, so the crow was really fun. Remember in the beginning I said we're going to be using Bacon Bond? Well, I'm dumb and forgot to use the Bacon Bond, but this is where it would have been perfect, especially trying to put wings and stuff in, like I had inserted the wire there. I wish I had thought more ahead where I could have maybe baked this part so that as I was touching it and trying to put the feathers on, I wouldn't have been kind of mashing the body so much. Definitely going to start doing things in steps. But these sculptures are so small, so I think I just thought might as well just do it all in one sitting. But sometimes taking my time can really be useful, especially with these kinds of little things. So the feathers didn't really come out the way I wanted them to. In my head, I was picturing something very different. I don't dislike them. I think they actually look really cool. But, you know, it's tough if you ever have like an idea in your head and you're seeing it one way and then it doesn't end up being what you wanted. It's very frustrating. But, I mean, you never know what you can do until you try. So, I mean, even though my idea was probably a lot better in my head, I still like the way that it came out. So making these feathers, I kind of utilized the same idea where I kind of make a strip and then I would add these little creases into the sides. And I did that again later on a bigger scale using those skewers as like kind of the, whatever they're, like the little quill part of the feather. And it ended up, I thought they came out really cool. And apparently I like to sculpt skulls, because like this is like the third skull I think I did in this whole series. The gnome obviously has a skull. I did a broken skull in his jar, and then here this is the mummy, and the mummy was actually my favorite. So I have a pasta maker off to the side, and I'm definitely using that to help me get the clay to be thin. So I think this setting was pretty thin, and I would put the strips through, and it kind of makes the ends, because of the way the Sculpey was, it made the ends kind of really tattered looking. And I think that's just because of how I didn't even like need the Sculpey at all. I just put it straight into the pasta maker from the box, and it had this really cool kind of like fringe look to it. And I just kind of went with it because I thought it was really neat, and I thought it looked how a mummy's tattered, you know, like strips would look, or whatever they're called, bandages. And even doing the top of his head, like I didn't even attach it. I just kind of attached it with a little skewer and then covered it with the bandages. I don't know why I gave him a cone head, but it looks kind of cool. So the tongue was also my favorite part. I thought it would be really funny to have a tongue hanging out. So here I'm actually starting to work on the feathers for the bottle. Now I didn't measure each feather like with the bottle opening until I think I did a couple, and then after I actually baked them, if they didn't fit, if I had kind of pushed them out a little too far with the feathering I was doing at the edges, I just kind of cut it off with the X-Acto. By that point I realized I was able to carve and cut things, and you know, if I was really careful I wouldn't snap it, but it was such small little pieces I was getting off, so it didn't really affect it in any way. So this cat is very similarly styled to the cat that I did last year. I think it was last year. Maybe it was the year before. I've done this a couple years now, and I think I did skip a year. I think I might have skipped 2018. But either way, this is the kind of cat that I like. It reminds me of the 1980s Halloween decor. That very simple black cat. Usually I think he has like green and orange and black and white. Those are the colors that are on him. And that's just kind of what I was going with. And at this point, I was kind of getting a little tired. It had been, like, I mean, you're talking, I have 8 hours of footage, but I still had footage that I wasn't filming because either my camera would die and I had to charge the battery, or I didn't have enough life on my memory card, or I stopped and went and did the resin. The resin took like 24 hours to cure, so I couldn't really, I could paint, but I think I waited because I think at this point I was super tired. And you'll see the color or the background colors and lighting will start to change when I go into painting because it was getting dark. So, okay, the unicorn. I did a unicorn last year where I only did like the side profile and I stuck him on the bottle. So it was really cool. You know, I'm obsessed with unicorns, especially not in the sense that some people are, but more like since I did that drawing. I don't know if you've seen it, but I did a 1980s drive through, and it was actually, it looks like a 1990s Taco Bell, but whatever. And it has 2 unicorns that are running it. And I don't know, I've just been obsessed with unicorns since then. So I keep trying to find ways to like work them into my art. But who doesn't love a unicorn? So, and what was funny was I was listening to a creepypasta, and it was about like My Little Pony at the same time, and it was funny. It was a horrible creepypasta too, but that's besides the point. So, one thing I did that I will note is with all of these, I painted them with a base color, pretty dark. Because what I learned is, just in painting in general, I like to work off of a color. And I tend to use that color when I'm like glazing, or if I'm adding highlight, I like to keep it as maybe a contrast color in the background, or just kind of, I layer a lot. So I almost dry brush. You could see the gnome is even that dark color. And I started putting this color on, and because that particular red is a little bit thinner, you could see a lot of the underpainting showing through. And I just think that adds a kind of creepiness to it. It definitely added a vibe to all the stoppers, because giving them a dark color and then kind of almost dry brushing and glazing these paints on with just very thin layers in some areas, it just made it look really neat and creepy, and not as bright. It was much more muted, because I'm definitely a person who does a lot of bright colors, but this is supposed to be kind of a little spooky, a little Halloween-y, so I wanted it to have that kind of deeper undertone. Oh my God, the little bones were so much fun. I didn't want to put them in the jar because I love them so much, but they had to go in the jar because that was their purpose. It was really fun. This was a fun project. I slowed this down so that, especially when it gets to the close-up, look at the little teeth. I broke the jawbone in half, the lower jawbone. That's like 2 pieces. But it was really fun, and I slowed this down so that you could see how it looked. And of course, if the bottle gets shaken up, they're going to move around. But I thought it looked perfect. I was really proud of this one. And then all I did was hot glue the stoppers in to make sure they don't come out, especially with the ones that have like glitter. And then putting these feathers in. I used a tweezer just to make sure they get kind of aligned correctly, because I wanted to have them at a certain angle. And I did the same paint job on those feathers that I did on the feathers on here. And this is where I'm starting to go in and add a little more detailing into the crow. I definitely wanted to keep it dark, but highlight it, you know? Same idea, dark to start. Now, this is one of the ones I will be using color shift paint on by Folk Art. The color shift paint is super cool. I have it in like 8 colors. It's really neat. I think I actually used color shift paint on the newt as well. I gave him a yellow color shift paint. You'll see it ends up looking really cool. I probably could have done a color shift paint on the unicorn's hair. I gave him a gold horn, which unfortunately, here's where I started losing some footage. So you're probably not going to see much more of me painting that one, or the cat. I think the cat might be done too. But so once the mermaid tail dark color had dried, I started adding lighter tones to kind of dry brush into it. And the same thing with the mummy here. This is a lot of dry brushing. I really wanted that look of like old, and I probably could have put a little bit of the burnt sienna in there, because that tends to, like a sepia tone stuff, that kind of tends to be like older style, but whatever. I think it still worked. I actually really am surprised the mummy dust didn't sell, because I think that's one of my favorites. And it was hard to choose because I did a lot of really cool ones I was really proud of, but I don't know, there was something about the mummy. I think I'm just into mummies lately. I don't know. It's Halloween. I'm just excited. I was really proud of that color job. Oh, and see, there he is. And I don't know if you can kind of see because it's a quick shot, but oh, here's the color shift paint. I actually had, like I said, little pieces of the Sculpey that I had shaved and put it into the dust. It was cool. Look at that. Okay, so you can see here where I'm showing the bottle and I'm pointing again to the screen, like you can see me pointing, but all the flakes ended up at the bottom, which I was bummed that happened, but I didn't really mind it because it kind of gave it a really interesting look too. Like maybe all the sediment has settled and the tears are all like, I don't know, floating above, who knows, whatever. It still looked cool. Color shift, yep, this is the yellow color shift paint on the Newt. He was so cute. I liked painting him. I had a lot of fun. Actually, I had a lot of fun painting all these. I think I want to do more sculpture, and I do have a couple ideas coming up once Halloween is over and all my Drawloweens are complete. I'm going to start working on a couple other ideas that I have, but definitely involving sculpting and some 3D diorama scenes, especially like the Gravity Falls house that I did. Those are really fun. And here he is glued onto his bottle. And there are the little flakes you can see as well as the eyeballs. And of course this is before I got the labels. But we're actually coming to the end of the footage that I have. I think there's just, a little bit more. And if you have any questions about anything I used or just anything, feel free to comment below. I'm more than happy to answer. I hope you enjoyed watching this. I know it was super long, but I didn't want to jip you guys out of any of the process aside from the resin just because of what I said. But here's the final. I hope you like them. Thank you to everyone who bought one. And I guess I'll see you back at the drawing board.